Man up. We hear this phrase used all the time. When a guy is scared of something or he's crying, somebody will go up to him and say, "Hey dude, man up." This phrase is used so much that it becomes society's norm for men to be strong or tough. For decades, we used terms like macho, red-blooded, or machismo to describe the kind of hulking masculinity that men were, on some kind of level, expected to aspire to. These expectations breed the innate need for men to be strong and tough. These norms birthed a new term, toxic masculinity. Imagine this, an 8-year-old boy playing in the playground with his friends. Fun day, right? However, he is slightly bigger sized than all of them, so he's made fun of for being fat because his friends will say, "You can't be fat. If you're fat, you're not a man." But he ignores it because he's used to it. And then, while playing with his friends, he falls and he starts crying because it hurts. And his friends come up to him and say, "You can't cry. Stop crying. Real men don't cry." And this is worrying because these comments are made by 8-year-old boys, and it's shocking. But they are true because I was that 8-year-old boy. I experienced firsthand the overwhelming expectations of society. Society expects men to be strong, tough, suppress emotions, mask distress, maintain a facade of hardness, and to use violence as an indicator of strength. Think tough guy. We hear that phrase a lot, right? Like, "Yo, dude, toughen up," or "Yo, you can't cry, you gotta lose some weight." Real men can't cry, real men aren't fat. And these are the negative outcomes of the norms of society. In the man box is a phrase coined by Tony Porter. Inside, it contains every single character trait that society expects men to have in order to be a real man, including but not limited to heterosexual, not effeminate, cannot cry, cannot show any form of emotions other than anger, has to be strong, violent, aggressive, dominating, and superior to anybody else. This box is harmful because it restricts men and boys to behave a certain way that is toxic. And these toxic actions actually stick with them till adulthood. And they live with these actions and they don't know what's wrong because they are taught to behave this way. I wondered if that was true. I wonder if boys are still confined by this man box, even in today's day and age. So I went on a little experiment and I interviewed the guys in my life, my family, my friends, and I asked them, "What is a man?" Unsurprisingly, they answered relatively quickly because it's a simple question. So they answered, strong, violent, not cry or not effeminate. And I asked them, why? They all paused for a minute because they couldn't think of an answer until all of them said, other people said so. And this is worrying because the generation before them teaches them how to behave in order to be a man. And I also started wondering, I experienced that as well. My relatives would always encourage machismo, and they would always discourage any form of emotional vulnerability. Young men are taught to behave a certain way, to be strong, tough, violent, emotionally conservative. This is not the way to go, as it restricts them to behave a certain way, and it restricts them to behave in the way that society wants them to behave, instead of behaving in the way they want to behave. I also interviewed my father about masculinity, what it takes to be a man, and his experience being a man. He gave me a very good answer. It stuck with me. It's still in my mind now. He said, "Go ask your uncle." So I did. I went to ask uncle after uncle after uncle, and they all never gave me a straight answer. They will always find ways to go around the topic, and they will never, ever answer me properly. And then it hit me. Men aren't the greatest at talking. They do not talk about things, especially about masculinity, and so they are oblivious as to what goes on around them. They are oblivious as to what needs to be taken out of the man box, what needs to be kept, and what needs to be added in. They are also oblivious that the young men in their lives, their sons, their grandchildren, their nephews, they do not know that they feel confined and trapped by this man box. They feel restricted by the collective socialization of men to be strong or tough. So they start behaving in ways that society wants them to. The Good Lads Initiative found that boys are trapped by the man box, and they also reported that anybody who cannot live up to this arbitrary definition of what a man needs to be is abnormal. And boys will then act in that way because they want to feel accepted by society. We need to change that. We need to change the fact that boys feel trapped. We need to change society's perception of men. We need to change the contents of the man box. As the world progresses, we must too. Therefore, we need to change everybody's perception. In the 2009 musical comedy show Glee, problems like racism, homophobia, and what it takes to be a guy were tackled when guys joined a high school glee club. The star quarterback of the football team was also lead singer of the glee club. And in one episode, he asked his other football teammates who was flaming him for being in glee club. He asked them, "What's the big deal?" And they replied, "It's embarrassing. We're dudes." This shows how guys who enjoy performing are oppressed and shunned for being a mockery to what society wants them to be. This was heightened in my own school life as guys were expected to join certain clubs like soccer, basketball, basically the sports. And they were discouraged from joining the performing arts like guitar, choir, symphonic band. I too was persuaded to join a sport by my relatives, and I did. I joined a sport in primary school and I didn't enjoy that one bit. That is why we need to change this. Boys are unhappy with the lives that they are leading. They are unhappy with the way that they lead their lives, the way society wants them to lead. We need to change that. We need to start having the conversations with the men in our lives about masculinity, what it takes to be a man, and what needs to be eradicated from society's perception of a man. We need to change the contents of the man box. And we need to have a new perception of what a man should be. Man can be effeminate. Men can cry. Men can show emotions. Men can be inferior to the women. Men can be less dominating. This is what a man should be. A man that is kind, generous, affectionate, and accepting. Open to all the possibilities of the world. A man that sees the world not as it is, but as it should be. A man that respects women, respecting everybody equally. This is what a man should be. In fact, there should be whole new gender boxes where we stop classifying women a certain thing, like slaves or objects of personal pleasure, and we stop thinking of women as inferior to whatever the man does. We need to start thinking of women as equal to men. Following, men also need to see that, in the wise words of Tony Porter, my liberation as a man is tied to your liberation as a woman. That way, everybody is treated equally, everybody is respected, everybody is happy, and leading the lives that they want to lead. Isn't that what we all want?